Hi, welcome to the Property Show. I'm Jayashree, Kurup, I'm editor MBTV. I'm talking about the role of technology in the post-COVID era in real estate buying. And discussing this with me is Ashok Mohnani. He's the president-elect of NAREDCO, Maharashtra. I have Boman Irani, he's VP CREDAI National, and Kalyan Vaidyanathan. He's the co-founder and CEO of Nadhi Information Technologies. Impulse is the product he's talking about. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me first start with women. Women, when you see the consumers today, what is that quantum shift in the technology acceptance that you have seen among buyers?
So, Jayashree, the question is actually about making life easy, right? What happened with every other technology is it came into being because of the need created. And what I observe is customers are getting more and more inclined to make their lives simpler. The only way we can do it, make your life hassle free or simple or at the tip of your fingertips, is by including technology as a more and more pervasive mode of getting used to daily life. So while there were lots of comments about privacy going away, but you've seen that people have happily adopted to even a Zoom call and have adopted or given Facebook all their rights. I don't know if all of this was without the knowledge of people, but at the same point of time, I think I would be comfortable giving up a certain amount of my privacy for, let's say, the kind of convenience that technology builds. And over here, Singapore would be a prime example where they say the government just happens to know everything, but people continue to choose to want Singapore as a place of residence because the government takes care of everything. So it's a two-way street, right? And given our homes also, I think customers are getting more and more inclined to have, let's say, everything available to them without having to put in that much more effort. It's like an automatic car. You don't want to keep on changing the gears, and now you're very happy with a one drive which takes care of everything else. So I think need will drive the reason or the requirement for technology in day-to-day lives, and we've got to be cognizant not to over build technology. At the same point of time, give customers the right balance which is required for them and their lifestyle.
Well, Ashok, I'm going to come to you. I'll divide this technology piece into three parts. One is the pre-sales, when you're planning your design and all that, and the construction itself. Then it is the marketing and so on, and finally the managing and maintenance of the properties after you have handed it over, the process of handing over as well. So how technology oriented is the industry today? You are representing the industry. So how technology oriented is the industry, and what needs to change?
Okay, so I'll just take half a minute before I answer this question. Okay, this situation where we are, is like a black swan event. Okay, nobody knew, or even nobody knows, okay, how to actually, deal with this situation, right? So everybody just press the pause button. Gradually, people realize, the realtors realize, the developers realize that that is not what is going to happen. That is not what we should, deal with this. Okay, so they got deeper into studying, into analyzing, into introspection. Okay, what needs to be done? Okay, so the only answer that we found is that we have to be technology driven. Okay, now what I mean by technology, okay, I mean you have to be very comfortable with technology, because I believe that comfort with technology means discomfort with the manual ways of working. So there is a major shift, major transformation, you know as we have seen. you know I can compare it with a parallel with a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. Okay, so that struggle which the caterpillar goes through during that period is what makes him into a butterfly. I think we all developers have been struggling to evolve ourselves. Earlier, Jayashree, technology was being used by us. It's not that we were not using, but it was very sporadic. It was need based, as Boman said. Okay, but today I feel it's absolutely mandatory. for one to adapt to technology. Because if you don't do it, you are going to be eradicated whether you like it or not. Okay. So before, during, and after. Okay. So we have got ERP, we have got a CRM software, we have got AR, we've got artificial intelligence, we've got VR, virtual reality. All these things need to actually work in tandem. Okay. Now for planning stage, okay, planning stage also we require ERP, we require a 3D printing models. Okay. I mean, no longer are you going to sit with the architect on the desk and discuss with him. Okay. It is all has to be made through 3D models. Okay.
But
3D
was it
printing.
already being done, or do you have to do it
No,
now?
no, we will have to do it. So we were actually using it, but I said it was not being used to its optimum, right? Today we have no option but to adapt to it. We'll have to look at the new age of working. Okay, like Boman said, we never knew what Zoom was. Okay, now all the meetings are happening in Zoom. How much of time, energy is being saved by of your commuting? Okay, you can have as many thousands of people on the Zoom listening to you. You have your department meetings, your office meetings on the Zoom, so that you are able to communicate effectively, right? So pre-COVID, pre-construction, during construction also, like like for construction technology, I'm sure Kalyan will be more apt for this. But then we'll have to look at the situation where we know that we have migrant labor issues. Okay, now how does one kind of adjust to that issue? Is through technology. We'll have to go for prefab. We'll have to go for technology where we can construct faster, better quality, and in less time. Yeah.
Uh, I'll personally tell you that when I moved from print to digital journalism, my search was for data, and for me, the minute you move into technology, everything becomes a statistic, and those statistics give you a onward knowledge of what can happen. And I will use the same thing and ask Kalyan. Kalyan, when companies move into technologies, what are the advantages that they have? And here, let's talk about the planning again. The same thing: the
Right.
planning, the execution, and the maintenance.
Yeah. So actually, one thing, just to before I answer that question, uh, at the risk of probably repeating and to your audience, one thing we should probably have a mental model of why technology for construction, and maybe what is somewhat unique about construction as an industry. And one thing we're saying is the industry is very fragmented. There are a number of stakeholders from owner, contractor, consultant, supplier, PMC, you that come together for sort of that life cycle of the project, which is about 4 or 5 years, to put together almost as a virtual organization to come and put together this asset, which we're calling a project, right? So each organization has their own profit motives, each have their own economic incentives, cultural intents, whatever it is. Now, in this, the project is effectively an orphaned stepchild, which almost, I facetiously say, it happens more by accident than by intent, right? With no disrespect, I'm just trying to say that to make a point. So the point I'm making is, it's not that the industry is not using technology, like the other panelists said, but the point is all of these technologies are silos, just like the organizations themselves are silos.
Exactly.
And like we currently identified, unless you have sort of a digital thread that sort of connects all of these people and systems together, you will not get the output that you're looking for. Any owner that I go to, any CXO that I go to today, the first question, or maybe the fundamental question they're all asking me is, Kalyan, will my projects get done on time and within budget? Simple 10-word sentence. With all the technology that we have, we're still not able to answer it. The second thing I will say is, while technology, and I come from a technology background, although I'm a civil engineer by education, I come from a technology background. Technology is like a backbone, and like we said earlier. But the point is, unless the process which connects the people together aligns with the technology, even maybe the I don't know, contractual structure aligns with the technology is only useless. Technology can do 20%. Technology can automate, technology can make life easy, technology can give KPIs, all of that stuff. But if people are not aligned to feed data into the technology, it's garbage in, garbage out. I'm sure all of us know this here, right? All of us. So again, some of this. So we like Jayashree said, we have this technology called NPulse, which is actually designed to link time and cost at one level, and let everybody collaborate on a very social collaborative platform. So we get contractual cost data from an ERP system, time data from a scheduling system, link the two, expose it to the site so that they can give progress using a mobile device, so that I can automatically generate your DPRs, WPR, earned value metrics, and you name it. So the idea is to give you forward-looking metrics based on production that is happening today. Very easy, sounds like a superb value proposition. I'm sure all the CXOs here will relate to it. But there's so much that needs to happen in the background to make sure all the ERP system is aligned. We're able to integrate to it, and the people are willing to give data. So I'm making 2 points. So one is, we need to consciously understand that the industry is fragmented, and we need to figure out a way to align that fragmentation and use technology as the backbone to align it. And without that, I'm saying you will not get the benefits that you're looking to probably get out of the technology. And this almost doesn't matter whether it is design or planning or execution, right? That's the point I'm really trying to make. One last point I was trying to say is lean construction, or people who are familiar or come, you mentioned prefab. Prefab comes from a manufacturing background and all that stuff. And a lot of that idea comes from manufacturing, right? If you are willing to adopt the principles or the intent behind those things, then I think there's a manifold increase in benefits that we'll get by adopting the technology. That's what I was going to say. So
Yeah.
Jayashree, let me just add on this prefab part.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
You also got to manage public. It is only today that people have started appreciating, quicker quality and quicker turnaround times. But I know for a fact we've been toying with prefab for more than the last, I think, 8-9 years, and we've always kept it away for till now, only because people believe prefab or quick working meant low quality,
poor
right?
quality, correct.
Lower quality. And it was
Yeah.
it was such a dilemma in our company, knowing on one side what we could do with prefab, and on the other side saying, you know what, let's delay it. Because if we kind of go with prefab and we try to kind of build too fast, people will say, nahi, nahi, ye to kachra maal hai, it's being built somewhere. Public perception is so important for a developer, because finally it's you serve your customer, and you serve
Yeah.
him physically and mentally also. So it's very important to keep that in mind at all points of time.
Right. And Boman, I'm going to come back to you with a question. Today, there's a lot of projects that are underway, not necessarily fully technology driven. There has been a 5-6 month delay, which you are anticipating should go up to about a year's delay, translates into about a year's delay. In that situation, there are many things that you can do to speed up, and you should be doing, because you've lost time. Can you make up that time, right? What kind of technology interventions can help at that stage?
So let me tell you a little bit of what we need to do as developers, and especially more so, I would say this is based to Mumbai-based developers. Um, I think we should work on simplifying our approval processes, which is not a part of this discussion. But if we get that simplified, there's ample and more technology available with us to kind of go ahead. Second, which I keep telling internally in my organization, is also once something is being put as a blueprint, try not to deviate from it. Think in advance. So, the famous story of the Empire State Building that got built in a year, but actually it was under planning for about 18 months before that. So they planned everything and then they just kind of executed on site. So I think it's extremely important. I mean, today I can tell you our teams have been training through this entire 60-day lockdown with with trying to move towards BIM and Revit, and all our teams are getting used to kind of working on a platform which would allow us to reduce uh, mistakes that take place on regular drawings, where a 3D model would allow them to kind of check things out rather than having a beam running somewhere and then finding out that the conduits aren't passing through. I'm not a technical guy, but I can tell you that this will allow us to cut down execution time this will allow one person, so the human error will be, how do I say, taken away. Kalyan, you can add more to it later.
Sure.
But the human error of communication that goes down the line will be kind of taken care of, because everything would be checked, and only a fully operational design would be able to get down onto the sites. But what that does, Jayashree, is, it's always like, you're so busy chopping the wood that you have no time to sharpen your axe. Most companies aren't able to make a jump towards technology. One is what Kalyan told us earlier, that money. Nobody wants to spend money. Things are moving. Why fix something if it isn't broke, right? Or broken in Indian English. So people don't want to kind of move towards it, because it's working fine. Second is, they look at all the challenges. They say, oh, if I do this, I need to be able to kind of put aside 15 days or 50 days of my entire
Right.
workforce. And then the third challenge, of course, which I mentioned at the start only, if the approval processes aren't okay, even people like me sit down and say, team, it's great, you will be able to build very, very fast, but I need to go and get the approvals, right? And that's not going to happen at the same point of time. So there's this fine gear mesh of this entire thing that allows people to kind of take decisions. We as a company have moved, we've dived in headfirst, I must say, towards making a change towards our technological processes, and we will be fully integrated BIM, uh, excuse me about the technical parlance, but at level 5 or 6 before this lockdown is complete. And we are very excited. All our new upcoming projects will be totally designed and put on the floor without any human intervention or human issues taking place.
Very nice.
Yeah. Ashok, you spoke about prefab. Now, one of the questions that came in, and this is something that I intended to ask anyway, prefab is considered an expensive technology. A lot of developers I talk to say that no, prefab can take up the price of the cost of the product. Another thing is that we don't have standardized designs. So prefab only works when you're working in standardized modules, right? Now, both these together, do you think prefab will be technology that the developers will adopt?
Okay, I'll just take you back to the webinar where Boman was moderating with Sadhguru. Okay, so Sadhguru said that he's aware about a Russian company which can make 50 million square feet in precisely 60 days, right, Boman? Now, if
Yeah.
that cannot happen without prefabricating stuff, okay, it cannot happen at site. Okay, so if you are looking at a larger span, if you're looking at projects which having a larger floor plate, I think prefab is definitely an option. We cannot use Jayashree. We may not consider in a small standalone building, okay, a high-end building in Bandra or in Pali Hill. You may not want to consider that. But if you are going for mass production, do you have an option? Answer is no. Coming to the cost, okay, if time is the element, then every developer will consider the leverage cost. Okay, you have to consider that. Okay, the interest cost that can be compensated by the additional cost of prefab or steel structures, which would cost about 20 to 30% more. Kalyan can correct me the cost. I mean, I'm not exactly aware about the cost, but I would guess, and we have done some research, it costs about 20 to 30% more than the conventional way of construction. When we doing conventional means, I don't mean really conventional. I meant to
Sure.
say the even the aluminum shuttering and the flat slabs, okay, that we've been using to expedite construction. So one will gradually have to find out ways how to accept and move on, and not and remove that perspective which Bowman said that it's the quality is not that good of the prefab. We'll have to remove that. That will happen only by actually executing in larger projects, okay, where we can avoid niches, where we can avoid architectural fancies. We'll have to go for straight buildings, flat buildings, okay, in such a way that it looks also very neat, and execution becomes much more simpler. Yeah.
Um, Kalyan, what are the barriers to adoption of technology?
Well, Before I say that, I will say one point about the prefab discussion that you just had. I mean, Nadhi as a company is incubated out of the IIT Madras Research Park, so we do R&D with IIT to do technology automation. And I know for a fact that there are at least one or two professors working on creating prefab standards for India. So I think, I guess maybe if I were to use an example, we did not use ready mix concrete 15, 20 years back, but today probably we don't think of doing anything other than ready mix concrete, right? So I suspect the age of prefab, COVID might be the pandemic that will trigger the prefab era or something like that. And I'm saying there is probably supporting ecosystems that will come up. And I think about the point about sort of the staidness or maybe lack of flexibility in prefab also, I don't, is probably things that can be addressed as long as, and that, the point was said very quickly but nicely, which is as long as, like the Empire State Building, we design the building up front and don't make changes to it, right? So, so Boman was mentioning about BIM, right? So we worked with a real estate client here a few years ago, wherein the model was getting built as the building was getting built, which means the value of having that model, that integration without that clash detection and all that stuff is not, you're not able to realize it. And I think that, Jayashree, is what I'm saying. If you ask me what is the barrier to technology, it is this alignment that you're trying to create. And like I said, when we get, and because approvals is such a big thing, as soon as we get the approvals, people are just dying to dig a hole in the ground and start building. Not effective, and the uncertainty of approval is so high, and that I, as a decision maker, they are not willing to give us the go ahead and say, let's design this building to be clash free, because the approval is high. But once it comes, my clock is starting to tick, thanks to RERA and other interventions that are now coming into play, that I said dig and let's build, right? So there is this constant tension between how much can I be pre-prepared and how much is too late to do as afterwards. So the people and technology alignment needs to happen before that barrier can be overcome. But that's one thing. On the positive side, the other thing we're noticing is that all the youngsters who are sort of coming into the work field, and I have kids who are teenagers, right? So they don't know how to operate a computer. I mean, I say this nicely, right? They are growing up in an Instagram, Facebook era, wherein they're expecting everything to work at the touch of a screen or a voice command or something like that. And when this generation kind of moves into more decision-making positions, I think some more of the barriers will come down, because for them, like Boman said, upfront, technology is a background. It's not something that is in your face trying to control your life. It is the in thing that you're using as an ease and convenience thing. So I think sort of I'm talking about an ecosystem alignment, a people alignment, all of that to come together for those barriers to come down.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from all of you is that the approvals process, speeding up the approvals process, is a predeterminant to the effective use of technology, right? And this, I think, states across India are struggling with approvals process have been abysmally painful. But let's come to the second part of it, which is today, like Kalyan said, the acceptability of technology is very high to the consumer. And after COVID, a lot of people who did not earlier decide to buy houses are actually considering buying houses. About, in our research, we find that about 74% of the people who said that they will buy in the next 6 to 9 months, 3 to 9 months, said that they are first timers. They haven't bought houses before, and they hadn't considered buying, but they have changed their decision. They want to buy houses. Is that generation, the generation that is comfortable with technology, what as an industry are you offering them enough? Can I, just seeing a virtual tour, will I be able to make my decision? Just being able to figure out if there today technologies exist, can I shortlist the unit and the the which corner of the building I should be in?
Right.
Am I able to do all that? I
Right.
think Ashok wants to make a point.
Yeah, I'll take this. Okay, so before I take this, I just want to share something very personal. Okay, when Kalyan talked about RMC, so it was in the year 1996 that Boman had come to one of my sites at Dahisar, right? And we were using the hand mixer in those days, right? And Boman had started his career around that time, and he was doing a project at Chikkowadi in Borivali. So he asked me, he along with architect Tarun Mota was there, he asked me that, what else can you do apart from using the hand mixture? Okay. So at that time, we didn't know what RMC was, very honestly. Okay. So how industry has evolved, you know. So that time also, Bowman did think 24 years back, yes, that there is something which is possible than using a hand mixture. Okay. Now coming to the consumer, okay, who is the most paramount right now of importance to us. We need to, apart from virtual reality, apart from augmented reality, we have developed portals as well as in our website. Okay, I'm proud to say that NAREDCO, along with the support of the housing ministry, has developed a portal called housing.com, where you can see the particular unit. Okay, you can have a not only the virtual tour, but you can actually feel what you're going to buy. Okay, the availability of every unit is very, very explicitly clear. Okay, if I've got 100 units in one project, I will display those 100 units, out of which 90 are available. I will display those 90, the floor, the particular unit, the size, the dimensions, everything is so clear on that portal. Okay, that a buyer who's so well informed, so well educated, will have no doubt on the actual reality and our capability as well as our transparency of expressing our product to them. So this way, we make life easy for a consumer. Okay,
How
for him
long
to
before
actually.
most of your properties are of the standard that you're talking about? Today, they are not. Today, when
Sorry.
a consumer, how long before properties come to the standard of display that you're talking of? Today, they are not. Today, if I have to look for a property online, I do have to rely on photographs. I do have to rely on a few, simulations and things like that. But I don't think I have what you're actually describing. And our consumers want to know, when will this be a reality?
So that's why I just expressed
So
that we have launched a portal called housing.com, okay, housingforall.com, which is going to go live very soon in the next couple of weeks. It is going to go live. That time everything will be so transparent. Right now, I mean, they can go to Magic Bricks and other portals of the like, okay. But once housingforall.com is launched, they'll have a clear idea of what they're buying, and there'll be complete transparency on the product, on the price, and on the availability as well.
Woman, it wasn't that consumers could not, developers could not put their properties and the sales velocity and things like that. They were closely guarded secrets. Where we were told that properties were sold within 3 hours of launch. But things are changing today. Today, it's more easy to determine sales. There are lots of people who are making estimates. But really, will every developer tomorrow stand up and say, these are my properties, 10 sold, 90 left? Is this kind of property sale market going to evolve overnight after COVID?
but Jayashree, it's already in existence. So we have RERA since 2017.
Correct.
Your the size of your room, the quality of the contractor, the financiers details, how many apartments you've sold. Of course, not live, but how many apartments you've sold every quarter. You've got to update out there. I mean, everything is available online, right? And maybe not enough consumers know about it, but they can actually go to a RERA website and check out what are the projects being offered, what are the facilities being offered in that project, what is the stage of completion, where exactly are we today, vis-a-vis the timelines offered, so that we have to put up pictures also as to where the sites are. Plus, on top of that, there is a very strong, stick above us that if we do not comply with that, or if we kind of deviate, of course, it's still an evolving process. If we deviate from that, we will get up to 10% of the project cost as a fine. I mean, who can afford that,
Sure.
right? So it's not about what is available. This need came about to kind of get developers in line according to the government of India. And I would say this was more for, let's say, errant issues taking place in some parts of the country that brought this heavy hand on all of us. But those of us that have adapted quickly or have tuned our minds to say, hey, you know what? So what if our details are online? It doesn't really matter. Your customer, an educated customer, is better than an uneducated customer. So we kind of just opened it up, shared all the details with RERA, which we have to anyway. And today, my consumer has almost down to nitpicking details available with him before he walks into my site. Of course, then of course, there's a caveat to that. He's got to be computer literate. He needs to know about RERA. So through your platform, I'm saying it. RERA is a fantastic body that would allow you all data. And today, they are the largest holders of data of the real estate industry.
Sure.
As a
Except
matter of
different
it has
states, different levels of implementation.
no. So Maharashtra, for instance, I can say with absolute certainty the great job they have done. I mean, they can become the master providers of all data if they just mine all that data and put it out to the government. Government doesn't need to ask any of us about it, right? That's one. Two is what I've been saying. COVID will, well, it will change a lot of things, but it might not really change things only on construction front. But look at payment gateways. Most of the developers, especially in urban areas, etc., have been providing payment gateways for the consumer. No, gone are the day where a broker had to go and collect a check and come back and then over here and then take back the receipt, etc. There are payment gateways available. You're sitting in your house to just kind of make a payment after you've received an invoice, which is online again, to your email ID, which shows you all the details along with the architect as well as
Right.
the engineer's certificate and the CS certificate, saying that you have to make this payment. So you got peace of mind, which is a need everybody has when they're buying the largest investment of their life. There is the credibility, obviously, that comes along with RERA, but before that, there was a credibility of developers. Then third is, you might say virtual tours aren't good, but today with my drone shots, I can just show you the view on every angle. You could go into that house and exactly look at on your floor. You're staying on the fifth or the 50th. It would tell you where the view is. So with my drone shots, I have taken care of all of that. It is how I use the. Gone are the days where photographers used to come in. I mean, today I could render, and the whole objective of including BIM in our this is like Kalyan will tell you, is we all want to build what we have shown. So far, we may have had other issues, or we may not have been, let's say, smart enough to get there, but today we are. And finally, I'm saying your consumer knows you. I would say if he knows you, you've taken care of, or the influencers that we include in all our sales and marketing brochures are our present consumer statements, testaments from people who are living in the buildings. Once you have that, you've got technology, you've got the human intervention, you've got it perfectly meshed. I think it makes for a very happy coming together, which allows our consumers to make a choice like that after having visited everything in the peace and comfort of their home or wherever they are sitting, instead of removing a Sunday, going to 100 different sites, coming back, then having a chat with the family. The family could get together, see everything, and then hone down on the 3 or 4 or 5 sites that they want to go and see. I think it's a beautiful world that we are going to see. And will COVID accelerate this? I hope it does, because that will only mean that we would have established ourselves, a few of us would have established ourselves as better attuned to the changing world.
Kalyan, both of them come from Mumbai, where RERA works perfectly fine, right? And like they said, it is the largest repository of credible data in the state. But not all states are the same. I've seen a different story in Telangana. I've seen different levels of adoption in different states. When this happens, it is actually up to the individual developers to put out the information. And it's not, I'm not asking is it a mandatory compliance. I'm saying, has the consumer psyche, has the developer psyche changed in this COVID era to easier adaptation of technology? So what do you see?
So I agree with Boman that RERA is a great thing, right? It gives suddenly the consumer an ability to, or at one level, it reduces the uncertainty that the consumer was facing with respect to buying. On the other hand, if from the developer's perspective, if now they can show that they're RERA compliant to the highest degree, it creates a level of trust and transparency, and it can actually be seen as a very strong marketing tool. Forget about whether the government is adopting it, the agencies. If I go to the market as a developer and say, I have a very high, he talked about level 6, level 7 compliance of RERA, if there was a scale like that, if I were to come up with one, then I can go and say my product has the highest level of transparency. And if it is with technology enabled, like he said, right? So, I mean, I have clients who will come and tell me that, Kalyan, as soon as the site marks a floor complete, can you take a photograph and send it to the to a distribution list that I will give you who are potential buyers in that thing. That's the highest. So in this case, the developer has no control over the data that is going to the consumer. But the positive is that it gives him a high level of transparency. He says, I trust enough that I am willing to share this much with the consumer. So I really think the RERA, the technology, and creating the transparency can be seen as a very strong marketing tool itself for the developers. And like you said, today's consumers are willing to trade some level of privacy of information for that trust, probably, right? So I think we should look at it from that perspective and say it gives the developers now a very, very strong platform to create that trust and transparency.
Jay, just 1 second. See what's come out of this, right? I think Kalyan has hit it
Yes.
the nail on the head without knowing he's done so. Imagine RERA doing what Uber does after every ride, or Ola does after every ride. Rate your driver. I mean, imagine the kind of build up they would be able to do, and the customer's satisfaction index would go up that much more that he's dealing with a great developer. I think you hit the nail on the head. If he coined this right, I would like to put it across to Maharashtra, and I'm sure they are very, very open-minded, and they will take this up.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely, absolutely. In fact, one of the things when I said that when I came to digital, I was looking for data. One
Data,
of the
right?
things that Magic Bricks did was we allowed consumers to rate a locality, rate a developer, rate a project, and at the back end, I know what the consumer is. One person can fix it, five people can. But when hundreds and thousands of people are rating you, you know that something's right and something's wrong, and those give us the cues which we pick up when we do these shows, right?
Right.
Ashok,
Absolutely.
with all this technology that you're adopting, will prices go up? Will it push up costs for the developer, for the consumer?
Yeah, I mean, right now, one doesn't, I mean, no developer is looking at, cost. Okay. This is something which you'll have to adapt, whether it costs you and it eats on your profits, whether I mean, your profits are diminishing as it is. We are working on a very, very thin margin. Okay. That is not the, I mean, no developer will right now look at profits. Right now, it is question of his existence. It is a question of him, being in business for the next 1 or maybe 2 years. Okay. Once you are there, you will have, I mean, once you adapted this technology, okay, profits will be a byproduct. I don't think a developer is going to look at profits as of today. Okay. It will come. Today, it is important to be as transparent as Kalyan and Boman just said, as clean, okay, and as compassionate to your buyers, for them to actually get back that, inculcate that trust factor, which sometimes I feel that, there could be a deficit, okay, because of certain, people who may not have acted, judicially. But by and large, if we can inculcate trust back by being transparent and adapting to technology, whatever the cost may be, okay, I think it is the only way to go ahead. I'll tell you for us. I mean, I would like to just share something that we felt that technology should not only be kept with developers; it should also be shared with the channel partners who are
Right.
also our stakeholders. So therefore, Bowman, tomorrow we've organized a webinar, okay, to educate them, okay, how important it is to use technology. We are going to handhold them for the next couple of months, so that those who aren't kind of having the mindset to adapt technology will also be inclined to adopt technology. Yeah.
So,
Jayashree,
Jayashree,
let me just add.
go ahead, go ahead,
Kalyan,
go
just
ahead.
give me. So Jayashree, let me just add, right? We Indians are very jugadi. You agree? So right now I'm doing a jugaad. I can't hear Ashok because of whatever. I'm using an iPad. I'm not able to hear him. So I called Deepak and I said, please dial in and so I can hear him whenever he speaks. But this jugadi mentality, I mean, I'm not going to do this tomorrow. I'm going to definitely make sure that I understand this technology to be able to use it. This jugadi mentality of ours, the day it goes, we will faster start adopting all technologies. I'm not saying get it out of your
Yeah.
mind. Use it to the extent where you need it, but don't make it a habit. Okay. So this is another thing that we develop, and believe me, technology may be an upfront cost, but the price you will pay if you don't adapt to it is going to be humongous. So you might as well be adaptable to change, take that cost one time, and move ahead. If we are not open-minded to technology, we are dinosaurs. We are finished. This is the new world. Accept it.
So,
And
Right.
Jayashree, 1 second. I just want to add one point about the cost thing, and I'll second Boman in that. So, our view on technology is that until a technology matures and the industry's adoption cycle matures, cost will probably be higher, and I think that's a something you'll have to. I've not seen it. I've studied technology historically, and I'm not seeing a counter example to what I just said, but we should also consider the value that is being delivered, right? I mean, I'll give you 2 points there, right? So one thing we go and tell, for example, our clients is, if you adopted the intent or the principles behind NPulse, it is like buying an insurance policy, right? The purpose of the insurance policy is not to encash it, hopefully, right? But it's a risk that you trying to. But the point is, if we are, so similarly in NPulse, we're saying, if I give you a lead indicator, a forewarning saying, given the way things are going, 6 months, 9 months later, you run the risk of a cost escalation or a time escalation, and it gives you that much more runway to course correct it. That's the value, and that value comes from that leverage that the Ashok was talking earlier about. If we are all leveraged when we are trying to build these assets, it's that hidden or it's that leveraged money that you're realizing as value. The second thing I would say is, we have again, we have a client who's adopted the technology and running it for about 3 years now. They will tell you that, Kalyan, before we looked at cost, now 3 years later we can tell you that the reliability with which we can make a commitment to delivering a project is much high. On this reliability platform, we are looking to do cost and time optimization. So the foundation was reliability. The optimization comes after, right?
will technology be a barrier to a lot of? There were no entry barriers to real estate. Anybody could enter the real estate industry. We have seen a weeding out of some of the non-serious players. We've seen some amount of consolidation. Are you going to see technology as a barrier to certain groups?
Who are you
Who
asking?
are you asking?
Women,
Sorry.
We
women, huh?
Yeah. Okay. So quite simply put, what is your biggest strength could become your biggest enemy,
Yeah,
right? So that there were no entry barriers itself was in a way bringing or weighing the industry down.
yeah.
You didn't have to be, let's say,
Correct.
technically qualified or financially, put up your numbers out there. Today already that is going down with let's say all the compliances that one does. Uh, I think technology will not be a barrier because people who can adapt themselves to it. I think technology itself is getting pay-per-use models have already come in most of your software programs. They are well funded. Most of these companies, they can afford to do that. So I don't think technology is going to be a barrier. What is going to be a barrier is your ability to have a mindset to utilize it for the larger goal. Technology by itself is of no use. I've got 15 dozen goddamn apps on this way I don't know what to do with. So that is really not the issue. But I can still afford to buy the phone. So the point I'm trying to make is your ability to use what you have is more important than the fact that you have it. So if I've answered in some warped way, I'm okay. But
So
I don't
think
really.
I
I,
will,
it,
JC, let me take, I'll add 2 sentences to what
yeah,
that is, right? So I think I'm going to go back to the root cause of why we even talking about technology as a need to manage projects, right? So like I said earlier, construction is and will continue to be this sort of fragmented ecosystem of people and technologies that come together to make projects. And if in this, to create an ecosystem where everybody feels like they want to, as a team, deliver that project together, is going to be the success of delivering the project on time with cost budget. I don't care whether it's prefab, conventional, MyGon, whatever it is, right? And I think as long as technology is seen as that thread, that digital thread that connects all these people and things, I think effectively what I'm saying is the mindset should be that managing construction project is really about managing an information supply chain. And that information supply chain is efficiently managed using technology. And if that information supply chain can be managed efficiently, and owners are, I think, probably the most, I guess, the most invested in the need to do this. I think that can be a differentiator itself for them to manage and deliver projects efficiently. Does that help?
Yes, it does. It does. In
I
fact,
just add, I just
yeah,
add something, okay,
yeah, yeah.
to what Kalyan said. A well-oiled system, a technology which is well-oiled, it'll only add more value, more confidence to the buyer. For example, if you have e-registration, okay,
Right.
things will become so simple. If you have e-sanction of loans, I mean, imagine how life will become simple for the consumer if he is, a part of this system. So therefore, it cannot be a barrier by any chance. Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to put this out there that some of you are pioneers in the industry. You're the early adapters of technology, and therefore you have to pay that enhanced price. You are going to, you're going to integrate the supply chain models into it, and so on. But as we go along, I mean, in the second and third rounds of adoption of technology, may be another rung of people who will find it much easier because the entire ecosystem is more or less well connected. What stage are we in this entire process, Kalyan?
Personally, if you ask me, I think we're in the early adopter phase. I don't think we're in the very early stage, but I would say we're at a time wherein I don't think you can walk into the office of any of the developers, capital project owners. I don't think anybody will question the need for technology anymore. I think that question is gone. It's only a question of what is the adoption cycle? How can I digest technology and osmose it into my organization so that the organization can adopt it somewhat organically? I think that's probably a better way to think about it. So I think technology is here to stay, and whether you look at consumer and technology for project controls like what we do, or for operations and maintenance at the other end, or planning at the front end, I think technology is here to stay. It's only a question of how organizations adopt it, and putting maybe a strategy or a roadmap to making that happen, right? Maybe it's a 3-year roadmap, 5-year roadmap, whatever it is, but it's a marathon. It can't be a sprint. And as long as people understand it's a marathon and they'll have to put that steps in place, I think that's what I think we will see. And therefore, that adoption cycle will get to the next stage where you go past the early adopters into the matured phase of adoption and all that stuff.
Let me
I
also
just
tell
add
you,
something.
Jayashree, that
Okay.
sometimes you called us the front runners or the pioneers pay a very big price. Okay, and I don't know if all if you go and research, the first automobile was actually an electric vehicle before the internal combustion engines came along. But it just happened that internal combustion engines were easier to, at that point of time, build and sell and faster, and there was more business out of it. Those companies that were there then ran out. So right time for the right thing is as important as anything else,
Right.
as the technology itself. Today now, after we've come a whole circle, we are going back to electric vehicles, and now to rival that, technologies like hydrogen cars and solar cells, etc., etc. The point I'm trying to make is sometimes a pioneer also gets sidelined because he's been too early, and we've seen that happen in our industry too.
Absolutely.
So I'll say something on this, Jayashree.
Yeah.
What Boman said about pioneers and what you said, okay? तो हिंदी में बोलूंगा इसको कि जो ओठे सो अर्जुन. The person who actually takes the first leap, na, he is going to be Arjun always, yeah. Okay. So then there'll be followers, there'll be everybody, but we are going to be leaders for sure. Yeah.
The last bit of it, we've talked about the drones, we've talked about Maven, we've talked about technologies that are out there. What about the futuristic ones like blockchain and so on? Will that make sure that it is there will be fewer frauds, there won't be any there's a lot of information that's going into the public space. Will you see the integration of blockchain into all this, Kalyan?
we researched blockchain and we're thinking that it's probably an example of maybe too early. I think there needs to be some more changes in the. I think I'd probably say blockchain is probably a little bit of time away. I don't know how much time away, but I don't think it'll come anytime soon. That's my personal. It's a personal opinion. It's not this thing. Others might have different opinions and all that stuff. And if it comes, I think it'll come in stages, maybe from one pocket, maybe like he said, from the e-payment side or something like that, or maybe from the contracting side, before it kind of pervades and takes over the entire sector in some sense. Right? Small pockets I can see, but probably a little bit away. I don't know. Boman and Ashok might have a different perspective on it.
I have a view. See, cloud as a concept. First, you had all your data right with you. You kept it very, very, very carefully. Now, with cloud happening, where data is kind of spread around the world, it only takes a mindset to start kind of getting used to it. Your comfort needs to be built. So, I think with blockchain also, you may be right, Kalyan. Maybe a year away, where it becomes absolutely, how do I say this, usable technology for everybody. But there may be other rivals also. Who knows what else is waiting in the wings? We have to just be open.
Right.
We are the smaller recipients of all of this. First, the banking industry will use it. Governments will use it. Today, I think Dubai government is using blockchain quite successfully.
Right. And I think that's where I'm going to wind up this session. I think we have talked about a whole range of issues around technology. The conversation, in fact, in my opinion, has only just begun. There are some adoptions of technology. There's a lot more out there, and people like Kalyan who are working for this industry, trying to figure out the ins and outs. They are the ones who are going to be pushing this big time. But I think at the end of the day, what you have to understand is the consumer is ready, and if the consumer is ready, the industry has to be. Thank you so much for watching the Property Show. I'm Jayashree.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Bye.
Bye.